Alright guys, welcome back to our off-grid land. It's been abandoned for pretty much 1 year since the floods, since we left in that excavator, and we haven't been back since to do anything here really. So we've come here to check out the situation and see how overgrown the place has gotten. So let's take a bit of a tour inside, and I'm a bit afraid to see what's going to be in there.
Yeah, let's go check it out.
So far not too bad. This looks a bit serious.
For some reference, it's pretty tall.
Yeah. So that patch of grass is as tall as Sarah. So far so good. It's all just grass here.
That one's not too bad.
And so that's the gravel pad that our caravan used to be on, and it goes to show, when we thought we had enough gravel put down, it wasn't really enough gravel. Here is a throwback to how the pad looked right after completion. Pretty crazy to see the difference that a flood and a year of being away can make. And this over here behind me is actually part of our driveway. So let's take a look at what the grass has done here.
This part here is insane.
So the good part is that the gravel is still here, but this grass situation is pretty out of control. I'm gonna pull out half the driveway if we keep pulling out this grass.
And it'll take forever.
Yeah.
So it's time to reclaim our driveways.
Alright, so considering the weeds are so terrible at the moment, we've decided to use some poison on it, but little did we know that there is organic friendly weed killers out there. We had no idea that something like this exists until a neighbor told us about it. And so here we've chosen the Slasher Organic Weedkiller. And so this product, even though it seems ironic that there can be an organic poison, but that's because it's a naturally occurring compound found in plants like geraniums. And so it's called non-anoic acid or pelargonic acid. And so what it does is it's a contact-based poison. And what we do is we cover the foliage of the weeds, and what it does is it suffocates the leaves or the grass of any weed that we're trying to get rid of. And if the surface is fully covered and the sun shines on it and dries it out after, we should have a nice result in the end. So of course this stuff is a little bit less effective than the more nasty stuff like Roundup. But the good thing about that is that our organic tea tree plantation over here will remain organic. And it's also great to know that we're doing a lot less harm, if any, to the insects and animals around us. So some of the fun facts about this stuff is that like any other chemical, you don't want to spray it when the grass is wet from the morning dew, or when you're expecting rain within the next 1 to 3 days. And what I've found as well is that if it's sunny, that's the best time to use this stuff. Alright, so let's mix up some Slasher chemicals to get our grass under control. So what we do to start with, we don't pour the poison straight in the container. First of all, we half fill it with water.
So this is our cool Husqvarna sprayer backpack.
fully off grid. There's no hose and tap out here. Alright, so the ratio that we're using here is 70 milliliters per liter of water, which for 15 liters that we have here equates to about 1.05 liters. And normally we'd have our measuring jug out here, but
got about a litre left.
The bottle does have increments, so that helps too. So notice it becomes real cloudy.
Very cool. Make sure we get every last bit of chemical.
Yeah. And so this costs about $100 for this bottle. And it's got 5 liters. We use about a liter per spray. So we get 5 applications out of one bottle.
And it normally takes about 20 minutes to do one full backpack.
Yep. So it might seem expensive, but per full backpack it's about $20. So of course a job like this seems very overwhelming at first, but you know, I imagine when it's all under control we would use one backpack every couple of months or something, just to touch up areas that are really hard to get with a brush cutter or lawnmower.
Yeah, most people's property won't be quite as overgrown as ours, so should be easier for you guys.
Yeah, so we put half water first in the backpack, we've added the chemical, and now we add the remaining water. And it also says to agitate the product in there, but
it's agitating at the moment a bit.
Yeah, it looks pretty agitated to me.
Looks pretty agitated to me.
Yeah, so the cool thing about this sprayer is that it's got the lever to use the pump, and while you're operating the pump there's a little agitator that goes up and down with every pump, and also while walking around the chemicals are mixing in there. So here we are, the seal is on and our backpack's ready to go.
Time to go spray some weeds.
So with the backpack at about 5 kilograms and there being about 15 liters of water in there, you're essentially walking around with a bag of concrete on your back when you first start spraying, and as you go it gets lighter and lighter. So let's go spray some weeds.
So it's been about an hour since we sprayed the grass. You can see what it used to look like. This stuff hasn't been sprayed behind me. And in front of me, it's actually starting to go brown, which is what the packet said would happen after an hour. So that's very promising. Here's a good example. It's looking very dead.
Alright, g'day guys. It's been 3 days since we did some spraying out here, so let's go and check out how the grass is going after using the organic poison spray. So that's the driveway here. On this side and on this side, it went pretty heavy, so you can see that the grass is starting to die, but you know, probably not as effective as some of the nastier chemicals, but it's good to see it starting to work. So this section I went extra heavy on, and you can see here it's just starting to die out. So the package did say that really established weeds, like these ones obviously are, they may need a couple of applications, and so that seems to be the case here, but the process is definitely underway now. And so behind me here I did a little bit of an experiment. So this section on the right I went pretty heavy, and this section on the left I experimented with just doing the spray at walking pace, so just walking along and holding the boom and seeing what that will do. So it's a pretty clear difference here. You can see that on the right hand side the grass is really starting to recede back a bit, and on the left side some of these sections are unscathed. So this is the pad where our caravan used to be. This little spot was our home not too long ago, but as you can see it looks very different now. So carport's still there, and this area I did spray quite heavily. You can see because the little saplings have such big leaves that it was very effective on these, but some of the thinner style grasses like this one here, this one's going to need another spray or two. So you can see these saplings, they're still doing okay, so it's going to take a little while to reclaim our living spot again. And so these are the farmers' friends here. We really dislike these, and it's good to see that they're going brown. Nothing like being out in peak heat of the day with 15 kilograms on my back. So we've got a little sapling over here that obviously I didn't spray enough last time. So we'll show you guys, based on the other ones that did die successfully and this one that didn't, I've now figured out, you know, how much poison needs to go on this thing for it to be able to die by the next time we come here. So if we take a look down here, we need to cover the leaves of this sapling because that's how this stuff works. It suffocates the leaves basically. So we're going to spray it from the top down. As you can see, the leaves are now glistening with this poison, and that sapling shouldn't be there next time we come here. So we want to get it so that all of the surfaces are covered in this stuff, like this. Now that all the surfaces are glistening, we know that that's going to work.
Glisten.
And the sun rises in that direction, so in another 20 minutes or something, these guys are going to get cooked by the sun, and the poison's going to do its job really well.
Thumbs up.
Alright, welcome back, and each of these sections behind me have been sprayed about twice. So twice we applied a nice solid layer of this slasher poison on the grass, and let's take a look at the results so far. So as you can see, there is still some grass left, especially if we take a closer look. We can see that, you know, most of it has died off, but some parts still remain. And so,
but as a reference, that is what it used to look like.
Alrighty, let's take a look at the rest of the driveway to see how the spraying went along the other areas. And already we have something interesting to look at here. So, I mean, this is our driveway and these weeds are taller than me. It sucks, but it's a very interesting example to see how the slasher stuff works, because I would have really covered the bottom of this plant, but... It
looks very dead down there, but the top, not so much.
Yep, and that's because this is a contact-based compound as opposed to a systemic compound like Roundup. So when we spray this, the leaves start to wilt away within minutes, really. Within 2 hours, you can really see them drying off. But that's the downside. With more nastier chemicals like Roundup, if you spray half of this, the rest is going to die. But here, we can see that I did miss the tops, and it's still alive and well. But most importantly, let's look at the stem. So that is still pretty flexible.
Yeah.
And if you can see that, it's still green.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's not looking like terribly healthy, but I think if today I wasn't to follow up and just get the rest of these leaves, it might still bounce back. Yeah. So when you let the grass grow this long, it's going to take a few applications, of course. So let's keep going and see the rest of the results. So this is a pretty tall and well-established weed here.
Looking pretty brown.
Yep. So we can see this one was done properly. The leaves were covered and it's dead. If we snap it, that's dry.
Nice.
In contrast, you can see this one next to it.
Still got some green.
Must have missed these. So if we snap it here, that's bendy.
Still alive.
So I don't know if that one would probably die by itself anyway, but if you miss a bit, it might come back to life. So that's what I've seen so far in using this stuff. After 2 applications, some sections were done really well, while others needed more attention.
Good.
So we decided to do one last spray and to do it really well. And even though the safety sheet doesn't mention using a respirator, because this chemical stinks so bad, I got one anyway, and it completely blocked out all of the smell. The most important thing I learned from this project is that whether you're rushing or spraying smoothly, it makes no difference. Because the spray comes out at a constant rate, there's no point trying to be frantic about it. Just pick a steady, constant pace and stick with it, and that's your best bet.
Yeah, it really has to be done thoroughly.
You might even have to get them from the other side as well.
Yeah.
Double whammy. Hey guys, welcome back. We're here for the final check-in. So we've been here to spray about 4 times. Each patch has been sprayed about 3 times. So let's have a look at the results. We'll start with the letterbox over here, I reckon.
Doesn't look too bad to me. Dead, 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 dead. It's worked pretty well in this area. Mind you, I used a lot of spray around this mailbox. Let's go check out the rest of it. So this is going from our driveway to the road. As you can see, both sides are a lot more brown than when we first came here. So I would say, once again, that's a job well done. Now we're going to go through the front gate.
Also very dead.
Yeah, it looks very different to when we first started. Here's that sapling that we were looking at last time. This one's also looking pretty dead. A little bit green inside. but I don't think that's a problem.
No, it'll probably die off still.
Yeah, if it comes back, it'll be this big coming out of the ground probably, if the roots have something left. So taking a look at the rest of it, this side looks pretty good, this side looks pretty good. Of course, you know, this is what it used to look like, this is what it now looks like.
On the other side it's even more crazy.
On this side, yes, it's pretty crazy.
For reference.
Yeah, I think you did that in the same spot last time.
Yeah.
And so I think overall the result is great. We've taken back a decent chunk of our driveway, but it was a lot of work. Each section had to be hit 3 times. So when comparing it to the nastier chemicals, obviously it's not as effective. I would go as far as to say that it's probably half as effective. But at the end of the day, we got the job done and we haven't sped up the process of us getting cancer and killing off all of the biodiversity. So I think overall the results speak for themselves. It's a little bit more expensive in the long run, a bit more effort, but this is exactly the result we were after. And so just one thing to keep in mind is if we take a closer look, yes, everything is generally brown, but you can see the roots weren't killed in every instance. So this patch of grass is probably going to make a comeback. And so what that means is that the battle's not over yet, but we're a fair way in.
And we'll come back to sort that out once that's all died off nicely, otherwise we're just spraying the dead stuff again.
Yeah, at this point it would be counterproductive to do any more spraying unless we trim it all back. Okay, so taking another perspective to look at the longer section of the driveway, we were standing here previously in this exact spot on day 1 when this was all green, and this is just for comparison to when we first got here. All right, now moving on to the section which used to be our home. There's been a little bit of progress, but it's still looking a little bit far from how we want it to look. So let's check it out. Rufus is happy to be here.
Hello.
Alrighty, so this is the area here, like everything else. Brown, brown. All of the sections in the middle of the driveway, you know, a lot more manageable.
Just only tiny little regrowths, but pretty good.
So overall not perfect, but generally speaking, most of the stuff that was growing from the middle of the driveway is now brown. This section was done pretty well. That's already decomposing and there's going to be gravel underneath. And this is the section where the caravan used to be. As you can see, I went pretty heavy in there, and here's the result.
It'll feel like home again in no time.
And so going further down here, we've got the section where we stopped. As you can see, overall, brown, it's worked out well. Only thing is, we spent so much time spraying from here to the front that we never got to that incredibly bad section there, which was taller than Sarah, the entire way through the driveway. So that's a future project. But in the meantime, I think this is a great start. Alrighty, so final thoughts on the Slasher Organic Weedkiller. As we can see behind me, it does work, but it also does require a lot more effort than the more nastier chemicals like Roundup. So I can understand why a lot of farms still do use that stuff, because if I was a business owner and I had to spend twice as much money on the chemical itself, and I had to pay somebody twice as much money for their time in applying it twice as many times, yes, overall it's less effective, but it's a trade-off, because we're not killing off the biodiversity, we're not speeding up the chances of us getting cancer, and in the end, we got the job done. So the only thing that I would do differently next time is, considering all of the foliage needs to be covered, and if you can see, some of the weeds behind me, they're pretty much as tall as me. So I think the lesson here is that next time we would go around and trim everything first, and then when that new regrowth comes, there would be a lot less foliage to cover with the poison, and the product would be used a little bit more efficiently. Having said that, if your property is as overgrown as ours, no matter what option you choose, it's a big project, and one day we'll get there. Overall, of course, it's best to never let your driveways get this bad, but now that we're here, it is what it is, and we'll get there one day.
This is all going to be so beautiful in the future. The driveways are going to be back to normal. Over here, we're going to have a big dirt mound with our house and our shed on it. And then down there in the distance, we'll have the dam. And then all of this tea tree here and down there will be harvested and short, and it's just going to be picture perfect.
The tea tree will always remain organic, and we're going to harvest it by hand. That'll make a cool video. We'll be walking around with machetes and
old school style,
cooking it all up. Yeah, so I think that's the most important thing here, because mind you, this place looked still a lot worse when we first got here. So it's still not as bad as when we first arrived, and despite taking a bit of a break for pretty much the last year, we've always got the image in our mind of how this place is going to turn out. And that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really beautiful.
Yeah.